Hello, and welcome to another episode of Pixar Movie Reviews. I'm Josiah Milky. Before I get started on today's movie, I have to mention something that I forgot to mention on the Brave review. Brave was the last Pixar movie, or actually the first Pixar movie, last one made, but first one released after the death of Steve Jobs, who was one of the founders of Pixar along with John Lasseter and Ed Catmull. Steve was the one who bought Pixar and made them who they are, and he was a very good friend to them, helping them with financial troubles. And unfortunately, Steve passed away 8.5 months prior to Brave's release. There's a very touching dedication to Steve in the end credits of Brave, and we still miss him to this day. Moving on to today's Pixar movie. By this point, Pixar has had sequels to Toy Story and Cars, but this is their first prequel. Disney and Pixar's 14th movie, Monsters University. Released to theaters summer 2013, it's actually good timing on the scheduling part of this series to talk about Monsters University in terms of the director. Although he remained involved on the film as an executive producer, Pete Docter, who directed Monsters Incorporated, chose not to direct Monsters University. This time, the director was Pixar story artist Dan Stanlin, making his feature film directing debut after having previously co-directed with John Lasseter on the short film Mater and the Ghostlight from the DVD release of Cars. Dan is the director of Monsters University and is now directing an original Pixar film for next spring, Onward. And this is the best day to talk about Monsters University because we just got a new trailer for Onward online this morning. I was a little skeptical of the movie at first when I saw the teaser trailer, but after seeing the full trailer, I'm willing to give it a chance now. But in terms of Monsters University, it was a surprising box office hit, surpassing Up to, at the time, become Pixar's third highest grossing release worldwide, only behind Toy Story 3 and Finding Nemo. But its reviews were generally positive, but they weren't unanimous like Monsters Incorporated's reviews were. Currently, Monsters University has 80% on the Rotten Tomatoes side, just a titch above the original Cars and Brave, but lower than most of Pixar's other films. Having rewatched Monsters University along with all the other Pixar films earlier this year, Monsters University is surprisingly decent for being Pixar's first prequel, and especially to one of Pixar's funniest films, Monsters Incorporated. So let's dive into it. In the story, Mike and Sully were told that they meet. We know that Mike and Sully are the stars of Monsters, Inc., and they've been best friends and co-workers at the company since way back when, but that wasn't always the case. Monsters University shows Mike and Sully meeting in college, and initially they start off as rivals. Mike studies well in school and aces his exams, but has trouble actually being a scarer, which is what he wants to be more than anything. Sully comes from a long line of scarers and has a great scare, a great roar, and a big body type, and he thinks that's all you need to be a scarer. But he doesn't study very well, nor does he pass his exams very well. Ultimately, their rivalry gets them both kicked out of the scaring program. So, to get back in the scare program, they team up with Uzma Kappa, the least scary fraternity on campus, to win the scare games, a challenge that will determine whether the monsters are scary or not. We see the team as they learn to work together to pass through the games, and we see how Mike and Sully become the best of friends. So, what are the strengths and weaknesses of Monsters University? First of all, one very good strength is Billy Crystal and John Goodman come back to voice Mike and Sully, because they voiced them in Monsters Incorporated, and you can't have another Monsters film without them. You see how they become the best of friends, and I think their relationship really works. It's okay to be different, but it's not okay to fight, because fighting will get you nowhere. Basically, Mike and Sully's relationship here is similar to how Woody and Buzz's relationship grows in the original Toy Story, where they start off as rivals, but eventually learn to work together to become the best of friends and overcome their obstacles to get what they want. We also have a great cast of new characters. You have the Uzmas, Squishy, Don Carlton, Terry with an I and Terry with a Y, and Art, who all live together in Squishy's mom's house. They're all a fun bunch. We also get the other fraternities, namely Roar Mango Roar, who's the best fraternity on campus, and they believe the best scarers are the ones who actually have the skill to scare kids. And you have Dean Hardscrabble, she's the head of Monsters University. She's the dean of the School of Scaring, who decides who's scary and who's not, and it takes a lot to change her mind. I also enjoy the scare games with different challenges like Avoid the Parent, which is avoid the librarian in the school library, and the Toxicity Challenge, where they can't touch glowing, staining urchins, having to pass through a cave to get to the other side. The games are fun. The animation in the 11 to 12 years since Monsters Incorporated, they've come a long way, as the animation is a lot brighter, and the characters and the sets look a lot more cleaner and nicer than Monsters, Inc. Not to say Monsters, Inc.'s animation wasn't revolutionary, but in the 11 to 12 years since then, they've come a long way in terms of animation. And once again, the music by Randy Newman is very good. He did the score for Monsters, Inc., and so his score on this film continues to shine through. I also like that what the film teaches about how sometimes if you set out chasing one dream, you might realize that you can't always make your dreams come true. Because so many movies have come out where they say if you dream it, you can do it. If you follow your heart and do what's right, you can accomplish anything. And that's really not a good message for kids to follow. They're great movies, but sometimes they teach the wrong thing. And this movie seeks to remedy that by telling people you can't always have what you want. And this film is a good example of that. I think the only weaknesses are the film drags on a little too long. With the credits, it's about the same length as Toy Story 3, which is about 10 minutes longer than Monsters Incorporated. And actually, I think that's about it. Time length, and maybe the new characters are good, but maybe they don't get as much personality or screen time as Mike and Sully do. So really, it's the new characters are great, but maybe they don't get as much screen time as Mike and Sully, and the movie runs a little too long in terms of length. But overall, I do think Monsters University is a worthy Pixar film. I think it deserves a bit more credit than it gets. I currently have it at number 13 on my Pixar ranking list, which puts it right between the first two Cars movies. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Monsters University. I do think you should check it out if you haven't already. Let me know what you think of it when you do see it. And thanks so much. I'm Josiah Milkey. Thanks for watching.